Bismillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Over the past few weeks slash month, I've received maybe 1,000 plus DMs of people requesting to know how exactly I made 2.5K my first month while studying in Saudi Arabia as a full-time university student. Walillah alhamd. I'm going to show you in this video exactly what business model I use and how you can replicate it, inshallah, and the details of what it's about. Okay, so for starters, I started off studying about a year ago, studying in one of the universities in Saudi Arabia. I was a broke uni student. I had never made a single cent online at that point, and I didn't have any remote sales or appointment setting experience beforehand. So I started off completely fresh, not knowing a single thing about it. Alhamdulillah, I was able to make 1.4/5K in my first 2 weeks, and that first month turned out to be like a 2.5K approximately month, Wallahu a'lam, in my first 30 days, in my first month as an appointment setter. I didn't have any experience beforehand. I started off working as a truck mechanic, and suddenly I was able to just travel with my laptop and alhamdulillah make thousands online, not being reliant upon any job or having to do any 9 to 5 or whatever it may be. What is exactly appointment setting, right? So that's the thing that you guys are all here for. Appointment setting is, as the name itself implies, you are setting appointments. That's it. You're just setting appointments. You're essentially the middleman between a client and a product, right? So your job is speaking to potential customers who are called leads for a business, right? You don't have to go out of your way to find them. Most of the time, you just have a list already of names and numbers. You just need to call them up, hold a 15 to 20 minute conversation, and that's it. Now, what does that conversation actually look like? You're qualifying them, okay? You're not convincing them of anything. You're not having them buy on that call, on that first touch point, because that's not your job. The business owner has two types of people for his sales side, right? He has a setter and he has a closer. The setter is the one who sets the appointment and is the first touch point between the client and the product. The closer is the one who's going to get on that call with them. That's going to be a sales call, and he's going to try and convince them of okay, this is something for you if it is a good fit, right? We work with Ihsan. We're not going to be on an offer that's like a scam as well, right? So if you truly believe in the product as well, the closer is going to do his job to make them realize that of okay, what I have is good for you, okay? If they've closed that person, you take a percentage of that, right? So you're just booking them onto a sales call. How does that pipeline look like? Okay, you're starting off by contacting leads. These leads are either going to be in a CRM, a customer relationship manager, or for example on Instagram, where you just have a list of names that you need to reach out to. Either you message them, right? So either you message them or you get on a call with them, like a phone call, right? A 15-20 minute phone call, or you go through the conversation through the DMs, right? Your job is qualifying them. You're not selling anything, you're not convincing anything. You're just trying to filter between serious people and people who are going to waste the time for the close, right? So whether that's in mindset, whether that's in actual time, whether they can put in the work. Let's say, for example, a fitness offer, somebody who wants to lose weight and become more healthy and become fit. You want to see if they can actually put in the time, if they're serious about changing, and also, of course, if they're financially qualified, if they can afford the $500 investment or the $1,000 investment or whatever investment that may be. If they are a good fit, you book them onto a call with the closer. Now, the closer's job, as I mentioned, is going to be convincing them. He's the one who's going to be closing that deal, essentially, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Now, let's say that person paid $2,000. You got on a 15-minute conversation with them. You qualify them. You felt like, okay, they're a good fit. Let me book them onto the call with the closer. 2 days later, the closing call happens, and the person paid $2,000. That sale, if it converts, you get a commission percentage from it, okay? So let's say off of this $2,000, you got 10%. You've just made $200, essentially, right? Off a maybe 15, 20-minute conversation. This is obviously something that, it depends on whether that call closes or not. But if you have 3 or 4 of these closes per week, that's $800 per week, essentially. Alhamdulillah, of course, tawfiq comes from Allah. We just have to do our best. But potentially, you can make up to 5K a month, 6K a month, 7K a month. On the lower ends, would be like 1.5K to 2K a month, where you can scale even up to 10K per month if you're a very good setter and a very experienced setter. Now, how does that conversation actually look like, and what are the most important parts for you to know as an appointment setter? You have to talk to the right person, have the right message at the right time, and that should all convert into a set, a call that you book onto a calendar. Now, what does the right person mean? What does the right person look like? As we mentioned in the fitness offer, for example, you want somebody who's seriously committed about changing, right? Changing his old ways, losing that weight, losing that 15, 20, 30 pounds, whatever it may be. that is going to show in mindset, right? It's going to show in the time that they can put in, and it's also going to show in the finances that they have available, right? Is it the right person? Is this a good fit for them, right? Because if somebody has maybe $100 to invest into a training program like this, but the program is like $2,000, they're not the right person for this, right? Now, you also need to have the right message, especially as a Muslim. We're not going to get onto offers that are blatant scamming offers, or you're lying, or whatever it may be. We don't want our money to be haram. You don't want to have direct ties to something where you're like, okay, for example, some offers, like, and I've seen this before, where their offers tell you to do outreach. They tell you like, okay, send the message in this way, and the message, within the message, you're lying, right? You want to have an actual message. You want to believe in the offer that you're on, and believe that it's good for the people that you're trying to get onto that call. So the right message is extremely important, and also the right time. Is it the right time for this person? Both mentally, both in terms of, for example, age or time, or even finances. Let's say, for example, a person can afford the $2,000 in 1 month from now, or maybe like 2 weeks from now, is not the right time for them to get booked onto a calendar yet, right? If all of these things come together, they're supposed to be a set booked on a calendar, inshallah ta'ala. Now, what do you not do as an appointment setter? You're not running any ads. You're not the product owner. You're not closing leads. You're not running sales calls, and you're not convincing people. All you have to do is just get on the call, speak to the right person, qualify them, see if they're a good fit. If they're a good fit, you move them forward. If they're not a good fit, you tell them straight up, like, hey, I don't think this is the right fit at the time for you. Maybe you can look into X, Y, and Z, and perhaps if you're later interested, you can come back, right? This is how you run it. You're just running 15, 20-minute sales calls. You don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to be somebody who's extremely good at communicating. When somebody asks me, almost always, when somebody asks me what appointment setting is, I say it's two things. It's English and communication. The communication side as well is you need to be a person who is able to communicate and able to adapt and learn, right? You will be taught the communication when you're training as an appointment setter, and when you have coaches, or when you enter a mentorship. And the English is also important in terms of accent and that people understand you. But you don't have to be some crazy extrovert who always speaks to everybody outside. On the contrary, I think introverts make some of the best appointment setters. Why? Because as an appointment setter, one of the most important things is actively listening. You have to listen. You have to really pay attention to the tiny details of what the person is saying, ask them the right questions, follow the right systems, and not try and pressure them into a decision that might not be good for them. That's pretty much it, right? So now when we look at why appointment setting, why not do drop shipping, why not do e-commerce or crypto or whatever it may be, right? It is something that if you do it right, and if you work with the right people, it is fully, purely halal bi'idhnillah ta'ala. It is fully remote as well. I can, technically speaking, even do it from my work, from my phone while I'm in China, for example, let's say, or Yemen, or Syria, or whichever country it may be, right? And there's a low barrier of entry. I don't need to be extremely experienced to become an appointment setter. I myself started from absolutely zero. I never had any remote sales experience before this. I never had any appointment setting or closing experience before this. It was completely new for me. And alhamdulillah, I was able to land a role within my first 3-4 days, wallahu ta'ala a'lam, and make 2.5K approximately in my first month. Now, let's go deeper into the whys, right? The service that you provide is bi'idhnillah ta'ala purely halal, wallahu a'lam, as long as you work with the right people as well, obviously. And this doesn't even necessarily have to be like a Muslim offer. It can be a non-Muslim offer where the offer owner is not a Muslim, but the service that you're providing is halal, right? If you're on an offer, or if you see an offer that's like, okay, helping musicians or whatever it may be, or helping with music generation, obviously you're going to avoid that, right? Then the second one, you are connecting people. You are the middleman. Something that you've probably heard before is middlemen make the most amount of money in the world, right? This is something that, wallahu a'lam, might not be fully correct, but you are taking commission off a sale just by being the middleman. You're the first touch point between a client and a product. It's that simple. And you're solving an actual business problem. There's many offer owners who have a lot of leads, but they don't have the right appointment setters to contact these leads and get them onto sales calls, right? And again, you're only talking. That's all you're doing. You're not convincing. You're only talking on the phone or on the DMs. Also, you choose who you work with. It is essentially like tijara, right? You are selling your service as an appointment setter to these companies for 7% commission, 8% commission, 10% commission, whatever that commission structure might look like, but you're selling your service. If you don't want to work with them, you don't have to work with them. And you only need a few good calls to make hundreds. You can make $500 off of one 20-minute conversation. You can also make $80 off of one 20-minute conversation, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, okay, all of the calls will be like closes, every conversation that you're going to have are going to be like closes and that you're going to make a few $100s. No. That's not how it's going to look like, right? The way that it's going to look like is more so like this. Let's say, for example, you did 100 calls, you did 100 dials. Out of those calls, out of those dials that you made, you had 27 conversations. Some are 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes, and some are 20 minutes, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that because you have 27 conversations that they all have to be 30 minutes long. So some could even also be like 2 minutes. Let's say, for example, you're on an offer that really is important about like language, and within the first 2 minutes, you can already tell like, okay, this is not a good fit for them. That's it. You've had the call, you're going to tell them straight up like, okay, it's not a good fit. Let's say out of those 27 conversations, you booked in 3 people. Okay, you booked in 3 people. Let's say on Monday you had those conversations, on Wednesday they got booked in. When Wednesday comes, only actually 1 of them pays. 2 weren't able to pay, or the closer perhaps couldn't close them, or it just wasn't a good fit. And that 1 close paid 2K, right? So off of 2K, if your percentage structure is 10%, you would have made $200. Usually the percentage can range anywhere between 5 to 10%. Obviously, the higher the ticket price, so if this is, for example, 20K, usually you're not going to make 10%. Maybe you're going to make something more like 5% or 6%, right? But that's how it looks like. And this is every single day, right? So, or if you've discussed otherwise with the offer owner, but every single day you're going to have these conversations and you can make hundreds of dollars daily even, right? How many hours does it actually look like in practice though, right? Because we're talking every single day, but what is the effort that it requires from you to put into this? Okay, so the inputs within appointment setting as well, the inputs is automatically going to have a direct effect on your output as well. When it comes to how many hours offer owners actually require of you and like to hear when you're on an interview with them, right? If you can put in 0 to 1 hours per day into this, this is not for you. Don't even think of getting started with this, because it's going to be extremely hard for you to see success. And I personally don't know any offer owner who would take you on, right? 1 to 2 hours per day as well. This is below efficient. And even with this, I would say this is not for you. Offer owners don't like hearing this on an interview. Hey, I can put in 1 to 2 hours per day. They're going to be like, okay, you know what? We need somebody who can put in ideally at least 3 to 4 hours per day. Okay, so let's say you start at 8 a.m. and you're done around 1 p.m. That's 3 to 4 hours per day. Okay, you don't need to be calling for 10 hours per day. This is the market average, around 3 hours per day, 4 hours per day. Look, it is also possible that, as a appointment setter, let's say you got an offer, one day you only had to put in 2.5 hours and you already got your 3 sets, you already made your money, and you had like a lot of conversations. That's possible. There's also going to be some days where you've been working for 4 hours, but you haven't been able to hit the KPIs, right? The key performance indicators. You haven't been able to hit them yet. So it's going to fluctuate, but usually speaking, it's around 3 to 4 hours per day. If you put in 5 or more hours per day, usually speaking, that is outstanding performance. You're going to have much more sets, and you're also going to have much more closes bi'idhnillah ta'ala as well, because the more sets that you book in, the higher the chance of one of them closing is. If you put in 7 hours per day, 8 hours per day, and you had 7 sets that day, there's a higher chance you're going to have like 3 of those sets that are going to close, rather than, okay, I've made 3 sets today, maybe one of them is going to close, right? So the more time you put in is also going to have a direct result. Like the input is also going to have a direct result on the output, right? Which is why this is something beautiful as well. You're not reliant upon external factors. The time that you put in, the effort that you put in is going to cause a direct impact on how much money you make, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Now, why does this model win? Okay, so the possible payouts, for example, if you put in, like, let's say 3 to 4 hours per day, can look somewhat like this. Monday, you had calls, you've made $100, okay? Tuesday, you also had some calls, you had some closes, you've made another $100. Wednesday, it is fully possible that you make not a single cent in a day. This is possible. I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're going to make money every single day. This is why as well, you got to have tawakkul ala Allah, right? You got to have that trust in Allah Azza wa Jal. Tie your camel, put the time in, and inshallah hope that the closes are going to close, right? Do dua, say bismillah before you get on the calls. But it's something that really, it's not a 9 to 5. You don't have like a base of like $2,000, $3,000 coming in every single month. You have to put the work in, rely on Allah Azza wa Jal, tie the camel, take the asbab, and inshallah you're going to see the fruits and the results of this, right? Then let's say Wednesday was a $0 day. Thursday might be $150 day, right? Let's say two people close, somebody for $500, somebody for $1,000, right? You've made $150 that day. This is before fees. Let's say after fees, what the offer owner receives is maybe like $1,450. So you would be making somewhere like 143, something like that dollars, right? Friday, it's possible you've gotten only $25. Saturday as well, only $25, and Sunday, $50. Now let me do the math. This is 100, this is a 250, 350, $450 in a week. If this is how it looks like, divide that by 4, it's like close to 1.8K, I believe, something like that. This is something that, technically speaking, if you're on your own, for example, it's going to be more than enough for you to sustain yourself bi'idhnillahi ta'ala while in Medina, let's say, or in Saudi, right? Let's say you're a family man. This is like on the lower end, in my opinion, I would say. If you're a beginner, it's possible to make anywhere between like 1 to 3K. I've seen people who got on an offer. First offer was like 3 to 5K on track earnings, like approximate, like, okay, you can make $3,000 to $5,000 per month with this, $2,000 to $3,000 per month. The lower end, I would say, is 1.5K slash 2K. 1.5K slash 2K means the offer is probably just started. The company just started. They don't have that much revenue yet. It's something new. But if you're on an already established offer, like I heard of a Muslim brother, subhanAllah, on one of the biggest Muslim offers in the space, make 10K in 1 month. Right, so that's also possible, but that's much more established. You know, they might be making like $800,000 a month, $100 million a month in terms of revenue. Right, so that's why that's also possible as well. Now let's look at the possible career pathways as an appointment setter. You start off as an appointment setter, right? You're doing either cold outreach or you're calling warm people through DMs, and you're following up with warm leads who've shown interest, right? They've shown interest, they opted into an ad or whatever it may be. You're just going to be following up with them, calling them, trying to get them onto that call. You're going to qualify them and manage the closers calendar and go through the CRM, call these people up, confirm, do all of that with them, right? $10,000 is on the higher end. Don't get me wrong. This is somebody who's more experienced, somebody who is on a very good offer. This is something that's not going to happen out of nowhere and without any experience. You can get $2,000, technically speaking, in your first month on an actual offer if you put the time in, right? That is definitely possible. You can make $3,000, you can make $4,000 even, right? And you do this, let's say you're an appointment setter, and you've done it for a period of time, you've become very good at it, you've cash collected, a few $100,000, or maybe 100 or 150 or 200, whatever it may be, and you become a closer, right? Now the closer is the one who's actually going to be convincing them and closing that deal. Here you can, technically speaking, make $8,000 to $15,000 per month. I would say medium average might be like more like 4 or 5K, and on the higher ends it's like 15K. Now look, you're going to see closers as well in the entire remote sales space. Like I know of a closer, for example, who made $100,000 in 1 month purely off of commissions. But let's realize as well, as Muslims, these numbers, first and foremost, sometimes they're lying or it's very inflated, and secondly, these closers are working on offers with riba, right? You have many of these offers with financing and stuff like that, and we do not work with that, right? We're not going to convince people to finance or to open like a credit line. That's not what we do. So realize as well, like that's probably the reason why they're getting like 50, 60, 70K. Realistically speaking, as a Muslim closer, you can definitely, wallahu ta'ala a'lam, potentially make up to 10, 12K per month if you're on a good offer, right? And if you're one of the main closers, right? Like I even know of somebody who was making like 10K per month as a closer on a Muslim offer as a Muslim, right? Later on, after years of experience as well, let's say 2-3 years, and you've become very good, you can become a sales manager. You can make a lot more money with this. You're running the sales side of things. You're building and refining scripts. You're hiring and onboarding new setters, and you're reviewing call recordings and giving feedback. This is a much higher position. And this pathway as well is not something that's going to happen in 2-3 months. This takes time, and this also this requires a lot of experience. Right? Not everybody has that experience going into things. If you're already a setter and you have that experience, it's going to be much easier for you to land an offer as a setter manager or a closer, for example, right? But this is just the potential look of things. You're going to start off as an appointment setter 9 out of 10 times. I only know a few people who started off as a closer, which is also possible. But in my opinion, the easier pathway to start is starting off as an appointment setter. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Now, let's look at the other business offers or the other business models and why I believe appointment setting is the superior one. Let's look at drop shipping, for example. Drop shipping is, there's also the matter of some elements, being haram of it. And also, the upfront cost is immense. You need to put a lot of money into ads, and you're running essentially like an entire company. You have to be the customer support, you have to do the emailing, you have to create the ads, you have to do a lot of different things, right? Let's say crypto or trading, a lot of haram stuff within this as well, right? A lot of haram stuff within this as well. Is just best to stay away from it. SMMA, you're essentially running an entire company, and it's just a lot of work, right? You have to start things almost from scratch as well. All of these things, and ecom/FBA, also many upfront costs. You're going to spend 5 to 10K into ads before you see any single cent out of it, or maybe like 3 to 4K into ads before you actually make profit. I know of a guy who spent, I believe, $25,000 into ecom before he had a single first winning product where he actually got profit out of it, right? So this is not something that, if you really like want to make hijrah or you want to get out of the 9 to 5 quickly, it's not something that you really can afford, generally speaking, right? So it's risky, it's slow to make money, you need upfront money, it's also unstable income, it's hard for beginners, very competitive. All of these models, some of them require like very technical skills, or like you have to rely on platforms and algorithms, and there's also some possible halal concerns, right? Now, when you look at appointment setting, it's a skill that compounds, right? In dropshipping, your asset is often winning a product and an ad account, a winning product and an ad account, both of which can die overnight if a platform changes its algorithm. Like, we all know Facebook. I've seen so many ad accounts get killed out of nowhere, right? It's something very risky. Like, you can invest thousands of dollars one night. The second night, it's all gone. Why? Because Facebook's AI algorithm or whatever it may be decided that you were potentially risky because of one word that you misused in an ad, right? So it's very risky. In appointment setting, the asset is your ability to communicate and get people to say yes. That skill doesn't get demonetized by a meta ads policy update. It's closer to a zero sum or negative sum game. In trading, for every winner, there's often a loser on the other side of the trade, and fees/spreads eat into that further. All of the people you see trading, so many people who trade fail. Like, there's an insane amount of people, and it takes a lot of skill as well, and you have to really learn the algorithms and how everything looks as well, etc. And then there's also the matter of some aspects, perhaps even many aspects, being haram, as said by the ulama. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. But it's just something very risky, both in terms of it being halal and also in terms of the investment that you're going to put into this and the amount of money that you can potentially lose, right? Appointment setting also has a higher ceiling, but a much higher complexity as well. Running your own SMMA means you're not just selling, you're also doing the managing, you're doing the marketing work, you're handling the client relationships, you're dealing with ad accounts, and also managing a small team pretty often, right? Appointment setting is just a single skill, right? You're just a single skill, a single cog of a wheel that's already spinning, already running. You just have to do something that already works, already is in demand. You don't have to like reinvent something from scratch, right? And there's a real capital risk, right? It's bigger than drop shipping. This is the biggest difference from appointment setting. Amazon FBA or ecom, they typically require buying inventory in bulk up front and then running ads as well, which is thousands of dollars before you've even sold a single unit, a single product. And then as well, you have to take into account the COGS, right? The cost of goods and the ads, and then how to scale after that as well. Because if you make, for example, or if you sell for $10,000, you also want to scale so you can sell for $20,000 the other month or the other week or whatever it may be. And it just requires so much money. That's why a lot of people in the e-com space as well, they just open credit cards or they borrow money from others. That's the way that it works. You need a lot of capital for this. With appointment setting, this is not the case, right? So it's a halal structure if you're doing it properly. You're providing a service which is either sometimes lead generation plus scheduling. Most of the time though, it is mostly scheduling. Lead generation is if you're doing like, for example, cold calling people who have never opted in, or you're going on LinkedIn and stuff like that. I don't recommend that for beginners. The thing that I teach my students as well is inbound. It's already warm people who come to you, who've come to the offer owner. They're already interested, right? Like, I never recommend cold calling or outbound to any of my students, especially as their first offer as an appointment setter, because it can also demotivate you. You can be calling 250 people a day for a week straight, for 2 weeks straight, and not make a single cent. You don't want to do that, right? There's also no riba if you do things correctly, wallahu a'lam. No gambling, no haram products if you choose your clients correctly. There's no upfront capital needed. You just need a laptop or potentially a phone plus internet. You're calling people or you're DMing people. That's it. No inventory, no ad spend, and no like setting up your entire business. And it's quick to start making money. I've heard of a brother, subhanAllah, who within his first 3 days of being an appointment setter, made $700, something like that, you can land your first client or your first offer in 1 to 4 weeks, right? Like if you're putting in the time, it really shouldn't take longer than that, and you can start making money in days. Let's say, for example, the first day on your offer, you've had a call with a person, they paid 5K, you've just made $500 or $400 within 20-30 minutes within your first day of starting as an appointment setter. And there's no long learning curve. You can start, like I started my training on, let's say, for example, Monday. I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday, I was already on an offer, right? It was also because I was networking and I was training with others, and I was really putting in the time to learn. But you can get started. Like I didn't know anything about it beforehand, but what I just realized is like, okay, it's just English and communication, asking the right questions, listening properly, and that's it. There's also a high income ceiling with the skill, right? So beginners can make, like within your first week, beginners can make like $500, 2K a month. This is like on the low end. I would say like 1.5K to 2K per month is like average on the lower end. Then intermediate is like 2 to 5K potentially, and advanced setters or closers can make 10K plus. Like as I mentioned there, I heard of a setter making 10K in 1 month. This is on the higher end though, so don't expect that. I would say generally speaking, for people who with like 7 months of experience, for example, or 8 months of experience or a year, it's like, okay, they're probably looking at around 5 to 6K per month. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And it's remote plus it's flexible. You can work from anywhere. You can do your work in China or in Tokyo or whatever it may be, and there's no degree or credentials required. It's just pure skill plus consistency, right? And it's something that's transferable. You can move into closing, business, entrepreneurship. It's something that can help in a lot of other areas as well, and the risk is low. The worst case scenario, you're going to lose time, not money, right? So all of what I went through today is how appointment setting works, why I believe appointment setting for Muslim men wanting to escape the 9 to 5 or make hijrah, move to Medina, move to Saudi, move to Mecca, is probably one of the best business models for them to get into because of the low barrier of entry, because of how flexible it is, because it's fully remote, and you can make money easily and quickly bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. That's it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.